Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar. We're really excited to have you here today. If you haven't already, please introduce yourself by typing your name and organization into the chat box. You can also let us know what you think transportation demand management is, if you have any comments on that. Most of our attendees today are Movability members, so thank you for that. For those of you who may not be members, just a quick overview of Movability. We are a nonprofit transportation management association based here in Central Texas, the only one in Central Texas. And our mission is really to help employers throughout the region connect their employees with mobility options that can save them time and money. We know that traffic is a real issue here in the Austin area, and so our goal is to help employees get out of traffic and help those employers have better recruitment and retention, control their facilities costs, and be better corporate stewards of the environment through mobility programs. As an association, we are membership-based. We have a lot of membership benefits. One of the big ones is networking and exposure. So events like this webinar, we will have a happy hour next month. We do different kinds of networking events throughout the year to really connect both our corporate members and our service providers. Total, we have over 60 member organizations currently, and really want to help them share their best practices, share their stories, and sometimes commiserate too. We also offer training and education. Every year, usually in the summer, we offer behavior change conversations, which is a 2-day workshop that's really popular, usually sells out, focused on motivational interviewing techniques. We offer recognition opportunities. We partner with Best Workplaces for Commuters, which is a national program. In fact, this year we were so proud we had 17 companies in Central Texas that received the Best Workplace for Commuters designation, including the City of Austin and Google, who are two of our presenters today. We also offer professional services to our members. That's really having our expert team come in and be hands-on with your company to help you create a customized mobility plan that really fits your location, your culture, your needs, and your employee needs. For the best chance of success. Quick note on some of our upcoming events. So the National Emerging Mobility Summit, presented by the Association for Commuter Transportation, is in Austin this year, which is wonderful. So we really encourage, they're almost sold out, so if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, it's a 2-day summit that's very intimate. The number of attendees is limited. And it's very focused on conversations around new technologies in mobility and innovative solutions to employee commutes. And to kick off that summit, we will be having a happy hour event on Monday, April 15th from 5:30 to 7:30 in downtown Austin. And that we'll have networking there, hopefully a lot of fun, conversations, and then we'll also have a panel facilitated by today's presenter, Chris Iverson, and with speakers representing Certain Affinity, Cirrus Logic, and Merck, 3 of our member companies who are big employers here in Central Texas. This event is by invitation only for our Movability members and registered attendees of the Emerging Mobility Summit. So if you're interested in being in one of those categories or in getting your own invitation, please reach out to me. My contact info will be at the end of this presentation. Now, our 3 presenters today, a really diverse and dynamic group. First, we'll have Ashley Greenstein with the City of Austin. Then we'll hear from Brian Foster about Zipcar, and finally closing out with Chris Iverson, the Facilities Manager at Google. Now, let's jump right in. Ashley, tell us more about TDM and why it needs a rebrand.
Sure. My name is Ashley Greenstein. I'm with the City of Austin. I'm a Senior Planner in the Systems Development Division. But I primarily work on transportation demand management, and today I'm here to tell you specifically what TDM is and why it needs a rebrand. So, what is TDM? Well, I will tell you that TDM is a traffic solution that no one is talking about. We know that transportation demand management is the quickest and most cost-effective ways in which to manage our congestion today. But because we don't have a uniform dialogue of talking about it, because it's become too wonky over time, oftentimes it's just people in the transportation industry talking to each other with this specific terminology, I think it's lost upon the broader audience and has not really been adopted by people today. So here are 3 definitions that I just pulled off the internet. The first one highly focuses on behavioral change and this theory that individuals oftentimes make economically unsound choices, but it's up to transportation demand managers to correct these misjudgments to get better outcomes through incentives and disincentives. The second definition says that TDM balances the people-focused and infrastructure-focused ways in which problems like traffic congestion, infrastructure cost, and parking challenges and environmental impact can be managed. And the third definition really focuses on the service that TDM provides. We provide information, we provide incentives and disincentives, as well as resources to help support people who want to make the best possible use of available transportation options. But still, you'll see that in all of these definitions, they're all kind of communicating different things, and it's varied in level of degree in which people might actually take this information and implement it into their daily life. So dating back to 2015, TDM experts realized that we really need to rebrand what TDM is, or transportation demand management. The ways in which we're conveying it aren't really moving people to make a behavioral change. This isn't just a product we're trying to sell. This is a lifestyle change. And oftentimes in our industry, people would say the plan speaks for itself, but we know that it takes more than just an idea for people to go along and implement it into their daily lives. So a greater focus, instead of just talking about managing demand or managing congestion, I think it's really just like allowing people to find solutions to their everyday choices of how they want to travel. So reframing it to talk more about transportation options that are available as opposed to the traffic congestion or environmental impact. So we at the City of Austin have decided that we really need to stop using the term TDM, especially as we're trying to encourage the public to choose more sustainable commute options. And so we're creating this more forward-facing brand that's Get Their ETX. So in this logo, you can see that we're trying to be as inclusive as we can and make sure that we're, it's not just a cyclist, it's a female cyclist, it's a pedestrian that's casually walking, and we're prioritizing uses that have the lowest carbon impact. So whether it's walking, biking, could be riding a scooter, riding transit, or sharing. That's talking more about our newer mobility options, whether it's car share, van pool, even scooter and dockless bike share. And the way in which we're really trying to promote these other options is the value in which it creates to the broader community. We know that it can help manage congestion, but it also improves personal health, whether physical or mental. It helps achieve equity outcomes. It's very good for the environment to not be driven by yourself and choose other options like walking and biking. The more people we have out there who aren't driving and using these modes, the safer it is. It promotes affordability, as transportation is a cost or an additional cost of living, and then it boosts the overall quality of life. So while this isn't our mission statement, I think it really kind of shapes the overall messaging in which we're trying to convey, in which it's the personal transportation choices we make today that are key to ensuring our city stays vibrant, accessible, and sustainable for the future. So here we're putting the onus on the user, creating urgency and saying it is your everyday choices which will help fulfill Austin's goals of becoming vibrant or remaining vibrant, being accessible to everybody. And then, we love nature and our connectivity and marriage between urban and natural here. We need to keep it this way, and transportation emissions are having a large impact on air quality and the environment. So this is a snapshot of what the website will look like, but keep in mind that's just a stock photo in the background. But here we're really just trying to be this one-stop shop of all local mobility options. So whether it's programs that we provide at the city or some of our alliances that we have out at the county, we want to make sure that no matter where you're going, there's options out there and a car is not necessary. We're also tailoring our messages to our primary audiences. So whether you're trying to make the decision of how you're going to get to work, if you're an employer and you're trying to promote other modes of transportation, or even things like teleworking or flex timing, or hoteling, which I've recently found out about, we're going to have a tab completely dedicated to you and messaged for the needs of your users. Or visitors, somebody who's just dropping in for the first time and thinks that they need to rent a car. No, we want to tell you that you can take bus line 20 directly from the airport to downtown, and it comes frequently. Lastly, this is really a great source or resource for anyone to learn about city initiatives that impact transportation in Austin, whether it's our transit resolution, which we're working on right now, or the Managing Demand chapter in our Austin Strategic Mobility Plan, which is also available for review at this time. Or it could be talking about the programs that we put on, such as our residential travel training program that's called Smart Trips, or the transportation options program we operate for our own employees at the city. So this is your time for feedback. Okay, we got it at this point. Cool.
Nice.
Cool.
Even better the second time.
I was practicing and I was like, this is where I stop and ask people questions. And I was like, standing up. So anyone who's trying to figure out how to get around in Austin can come here and see all the options out there that are available. We also tailor the information based off the user. So we realize that depending on whether you're commuting to work or you're an employer and you're trying to convince your employees to take other modes, or you're a visitor, I mean, we all have different needs. So through this website, we are trying to prioritize the programs and the services that appeal to each one of those users. And it'll just be like a really great website for all information on our up-to-date city initiatives, such as the transit resolution that we're currently working on, information from our Managing Demand chapter, which is now available. The final draft is now available for the Austin Strategic Mobility Plan if you want to look at it, or programs that we operate, such as Smart Trips, which is our residential travel training program, or Commute Connections, which is our internal City of Austin travel training program. So with the little time I have left, I know that was a high-level overview of what one could expect with our new brand, but as practitioners and suppliers and users of transportation every day, I would like to hear from you all on what other information is essential to catalyzing change in travel behavior, whether it's other types of information that we didn't include, services that you feel are on the horizon that need to be promoted. This is your time to tell me. And I guess we have 5 minutes.
Yeah, we have about 5 minutes. So please, everyone, go ahead and type into the chat box and give us some feedback. This is the Get There ATX program, is one that Movability has been involved in, helping the city really shape how we provide this transportation information, both to our employers through Movability and to the individuals, in part through the City of Austin. They have so many experts on their team, and so we're trying to find a way to really provide that information and make it user-friendly for folks. So if y'all have any feedback on, what else needs to be on the website, what's been missed, please go ahead and type it in now. Anika, do we have any comments?
Not yet, but Samantha earlier, Samantha from Smart Trips talked about TDM, and she said she thought TDM meant understanding the motivations behind commute choices and using those to inform strategy around managing traffic and congestion.
So that seems to be touching on the behavioral change aspect of it. So or more so focusing on what are our individual choices and how we can really touch on the needs of each individual to try and pursue new modes, which I guess once we have the website, it would be interesting to see if everybody can start achieving that.
Yeah, and I would love to hear as well from folks, you know, if no matter how involved you are in the transportation demand management world, if you live or work in Central Texas and we're trying to get information about how to get to, from, and around Austin, what would you want to see? And it sounds like we have one comment here.
Sure. So we have a comment from Patrick. Patrick has 2 small kids and lives in Southeast Travis County, where bus service is essentially non-existent, he says. So he says, what can I and others in my situation where folks don't have great access to transit options, public transit options, do to be part of the solution?
So I think that's where we would really connect them to a program such as Commute Solutions, which is a regional program that helps with carpooling options. Once you're a user, you can see who else is around you taking the same mode of transportation, and even if you don't have a lot of options out there, you can try and hop in a car and at least make sure that you're sharing a ride as opposed to driving alone.
Great.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. If anyone has any other comments or feedback that percolates up through your brain while we're going through the other presentations, please do go ahead and type those into the chat box. And then I think we'll be able to send out Ashley's contact information. There it is, right there up on the screen. Perfect. We'll send that out to everyone after the webinar. So if something comes to you after the event ends, please go ahead and send it to Ashley, because we really do value your feedback.
Or even once the website is launched, which should be May. So if you feel that, or if we've missed the service that you're providing, or if you feel like there's any way we can improve the site, please contact me. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Okay, great. So our next presenter, and everyone, if anybody else has questions, we're going to hold and we'll have more time for Q&A at the end. So go ahead and hold on to those questions or type them in. Our next presenter is going to be from Zipcar, Brian Foster. So Brian, I'm going to mute myself over here and let you take it away.
That's fantastic. First, thanks everyone for having me. I hope you have warmer weather than we have here in Chicago. I'm sure you do. But again, my name is Brian Foster, and I am the Regional Community Marketing Manager for Zipcar. I oversee the marketing efforts for the central part of the country, which also includes Texas. So thinking about this, and it's interesting how everything that was just discussed previously really ladders up into kind of what I'm going to talk about, how Zipcar sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened there. But how about how Zipcar ladders into what's going on there in Austin locally. So our mission is to enable simple and responsible urban living. We basically want folks to have access to vehicles so that they can go and do what they need to do. But we also want to reduce car ownership so that we can get cars off the road, reduce carbon emissions, reduce parking needs, congestion, so on and so forth. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So we are the world's leading car share network. Not that we let it go to our head at all. So we have over 1 million members. We are in over 10 countries. And we estimate that of our million members, everyone has a Zipcar within a 10-minute walk from their home on average. Some a little further, some a little closer. But if there are cars in your area, they should be highly accessible. So some quick facts about us in general. Every 6 seconds, someone somewhere in the world reserves a Zipcar. We were founded in 2000, so we are what we consider maybe the grandfather of the shared car mobility space. Two young ladies, Robin Chase and Antia Danielson, started in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They saw a need, tried to fill a void, and almost 20 years later, here we are. As I mentioned earlier, we have over 1 million members. We have actually 6,000 in the Austin, Texas area alone. We're in over 500 cities and towns and in 31 major metropolitan markets. As I mentioned, we're in 10 countries. We're in over 600 college campuses and universities. Colleges are one of our major pillars. Our three pillars really are our business to business model, our general consumer model, and then our college and university offerings. We are in University of Texas, Austin as well. And we have 26 vehicles, just to bring it down, drill it down locally, we have 26 vehicles in the Austin area, including on the University of Texas, Austin's campus. We have more than 12,000 vehicles in our global fleet, which includes over 60 makes and models. So this gives everyone access to a vehicle that they need in that time span. There are compacts, SUVs, EVs, minivans, pickup trucks. So if you're moving from your house to a new house, if you want to take a day trip and put the top down and let the wind blow through your hair, or if you just want to run to IKEA and grab some things and get back, we have the vehicle that you need. It's interesting that we have some of our friends from Lyft and Uber and other places, other car shares on the call, and Car2Go and so on and so forth. What we find is unique is that our model is a little bit different. Folks consistently ask me, oh, so how, are they your competition? How do they bite into your market? And we really feel that they're more a partnership in this shared mobility space as opposed to competition. Our use case is pretty unique in that on average, nationally, the average trip in a Zipcar is over 27 miles. So we really are that purpose-driven trip. When you live in the city and you don't have a car and your girlfriend's having a baby shower in the suburbs, Zipcar might be the way you want to go out there and have a good time with your friends. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to make that shopping excursion where you really need some space to pack things in and come back and build your IKEA furniture, Zipcar might be that mobility option for you. For students, a lot of them, take us about an hour to go do things, but they also take us for days and weekends for road trips, times to go home and visit their parents, so on and so forth. So we really are a unique mobility option to go and do what you need to do, and probably a little bit further distance than your normal bus or scooter or bike could normally take you. Look at our demographics really fast. We are about 50-50, ladies and gentlemen. See if this other one pops up. There we go. So what we also found is, as I mentioned earlier, since our university offerings are very high and a strong pillar, a lot of our members have graduate or postgraduate degrees or are currently in a 4-year college or a 2-year college or a junior college at the moment. We've also found that as you look at our demographics on income, what we found is that we have a pretty good mix, as you can see here, but our 3 highest pillars tend to be people that either have a significant income, $200,000 or more. They are very conscious of their carbon footprint, trying to remove their cars from the garage, so on and so forth, and are pretty financially wise about spending their money and realize that having one car and then using a car sharing network such as ourselves saves money in the long run. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, as you can see, at 11%, we have folks that make a little bit under $10,000 a year. Obviously, a lot of those are students. But even if you go up a little bit to folks that make a little bit more, we found is that a lot of folks that just simply can't afford a car really utilize our services. as we'll talk about in a little bit, Zipcar includes gas, it includes insurance, it includes that home parking space. There are 180 miles included on every trip. So it really is an option for folks that can't afford that insurance, that can't fill up all the time, that maybe live downtown and can't afford the high parking rates in certain cities, to be able to have access to a car. Oops. Our ages, again, they range. My average age is 36 years old. But again, as you'll see, it really kind of spreads the gamut. So some interesting facts as we're talking about this. We have 15 million gallons of gas saved per year. And then we have 1,600 pounds of carbon CO2 reduced every year, and that's per member. Totally, that's almost over 10 billion pounds saved per year for all of our members put together. We estimate that we have 33,000 cars that we take off the road. So for every zip car that's on the road, we estimate 13 cars are not on the road that somebody would have purchased or leased, or so on and so forth. And 60% less driving occurs with our members in the program than as opposed to your general public. So that means that people are using us wisely. They take the bus when they can, they ride their bikes when they can, they walk when they can, and they only use us as when and needed. All this speaks to fewer cars on the road, fewer parking spots, which leads to less curb congestion. And then, of course, all that leads back to more green space. Who wouldn't rather have a nice park as opposed to 3 parking lots? So our value prop is really freedom to own the trip and not the car. As I mentioned before, there's insurance and 180 miles a day included. You can keep the car for as long as you like. It could be an hour, could be a day, could be a weekend, could be a week. Really depends on your needs. You can reserve any time right on our app and go right into the vehicle of your choice. And this is, if you are a member, you can get any vehicle worldwide, of course. And then again, you pay as you go. Simply pay as you use it. If there is an annual fee for membership, but it's $7, so it's not too cost prohibitive. There's 4 simple steps to Zipcar freedom. You just join. Joining is as simple as filling out an application, paying an application fee. We do have a driving background check to ensure that you are a safe driver. Then you'll be sent a card in the mail. You reserve your car, you unlock it with the card. The key is already in the car. No need to worry about that. And then you drive at your leisure. Then we have some, what we really focus on, and part of my major job responsibility, to be honest, is partnerships and service. So the purpose of that is to partner with companies, cities, and organizations that focus on or are invested in responsible urban living, reducing their environmental footprint, and providing equitable access to transportation in their cities, in their towns, on their campuses. We have various partnerships just in my region with the Boston Red Sox Foundation. So that's a very unique partnership where we partner with their foundation in what we call a drive and donate program. So for every mile driven in the 15 cars we have, specially wrapped all pretty with Boston Red Sox logos and baseballs and bats and all these other cool things. For every mile driven, $1 is donated back to that foundation. We have a unique partnership with Honda Motor Company. They fleet our vehicles in several cities. For example, the city of Columbus is a totally Honda fleet. And for that, they really all they really want is folks to use the Hondas. They want to provide the city with great access. Honda's got a plant near there, and they just want to make sure that their city and the city partner has access to vehicles. We actually have a partnership with the University of Texas in Austin there closely, where we offer special discounts, special rates, and unique opportunities to students to use the cars when they need. I mentioned the city of Columbus. We just launched there very recently. It is a Honda exclusive fleet, but they also have special rate plans and offerings for their city employees. What we also find is that employees of cities and towns and universities are looking for other transportation options as opposed to employees driving in, parking, driving to a meeting, coming back, parking, driving home. As opposed to that, they can take other commuter options in and then use Zipcar to get around during the course of their day to conduct business, and then bring the Zipcar back and take the train home, ride the bike home, whatever they tend to do. It saves, obviously, congestion, carbon emission, and everything else. One less car on the road going back and forth to the place of employment, but it also saves employers money because we put them on a special rate program for their employees as a benefit. And of course, we partner with wonderful organizations like Movability to get the word out, not only about Zipcar as an organization, but about shared use mobility and other transportation options as a pillar of how folks should be able to get around and use their transportation systems wisely. So thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. This is my email if anybody needs it. And I appreciate the time.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brian, for that. And I will share one of those use cases. Actually, just this morning, I was reserving a Zipcar for a meeting that I have to go to tomorrow up in Northwest Austin. So for me as somebody who leaves their car at home most work days, that's been really helpful. So I'm sure we'll have a few questions at the end. Again, if any questions came up for our audience members during Brian's presentation, please go ahead and type them into the chat box, and we will address those at the end of our presentation. And now for our final presenter, Chris Iverson, who's here, the facilities manager for Austin and Dallas at Google, to tell us a little bit more about their commute program and kind of what he's been working on lately.
Thank you, Alex. Hey everybody, as Alex said, my name is Chris Iverson. I'm with Google, and I'm really excited to be here today. I just had I have a newborn baby at home, and it's really great to not be talking about baby stuff right now. I'm talking about work things. So it's been like several weeks since I've talked about things that aren't baby related, and it feels really great. So yeah, I moved to Austin from Northern California in 2017, and when I got here, I noticed there are a lot of similarities in Bay Area transportation planning and with Austin, and so that was something that was familiar to me when I got here, and somewhat comfortable, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but managing transportation programs for me is somewhat new. I wasn't doing facilities management or anything transportation management related in the Bay Area, but I sat next to people who were doing it, and there was a lot of collaboration. I was doing more cross-functional roles, and actually one of the things I worked on, we launched in 2014, was this Mountain View Community Shuttle, which is provided and funded by Google in the city where we're headquartered. It was targeted to students and senior citizens who either couldn't drive, didn't have a car, or just needed an alternative mode other than the city buses. We try not to put routes where there were buses already, but that was something that I was involved in from a marketing standpoint 5 years ago now. So I did have a little bit of experience with transportation planning. Now here in Austin and in Dallas, one of my priorities is to enable Google to be a responsible neighbor in the downtown community, and a lot of that has to do with getting people in and out of downtown, those who don't live here, and those who do live here as well. So there we go. Okay, so this is a photo of San Francisco, and that's I don't know if that's a Google bus in San Francisco, but it's the same. We use bamboo shuttles in San Francisco, so it could very well be. So I just want to kind of connect this back to what Google's doing, not just in Austin, but but kind of everywhere where we do have transportation programs. Because one of the things that we're very fortunate to have is the support of a global team that prioritizes transportation options for a lot of Google employees around the world. And it's important to set this context because I didn't move here and create programs. It would have been pretty ambitious to do in the year and a half I've been here. I didn't do that. I can't take credit for it. I was fortunate to inherit a lot of programs that existed, and because of that, we had a really strong foundation to build off of, and I've been able to supplement that with some additional programs that I'm going to talk about in a second. In Silicon Valley, there are a lot of barriers to getting to work, which impacts your day. It impacts employment and retention. It impacts daily well-being. And so commute and transportation management are a priority for people in general. And so here we are in Austin, not that different from the Bay Area. Here we're located, like I said, in downtown. We're a lot of the region. I heard population around 2 million in the Austin region. Commutes in and out of downtown every day. And then it's in a very car-friendly environment, not unlike where I moved from. So for us in Austin, and we have transportation programs at Google in Los Angeles, in Seattle and Kirkland, in Boulder, Colorado, in here in Austin, our top 5, including the Bay Area. So they're not that different. And we heard recently from the mayor that the Austin population will double in size in the next 10 years while only adding 15% more roads to the infrastructure. And so we can't continue to limit people to single occupancy driving if we want things to even stay the same. And so the approach that we're taking at Google relies on incentivizing behavior that we hope is the right behavior, and then by having data, a data-driven approach to what we're doing. Drawing 2 things at once here. And so I want to talk a little bit about our programs. So first, there isn't really a one-size-fits-all approach to what we offer. Programs that we have here aren't standard for every single office where we do provide shuttle or transportation programs, the cities that I had mentioned a moment ago. So we really want to do what makes sense for both where the office is situated, sort of the demographics of the office, and what people generally expect out of transportation programs at Google. So for example, we have the most variety of programs in the Bay Area. We have quite a few people who are transplants, like myself, from our headquarters to cities like Austin and others. And if I come from the Bay Area where I used to take my shuttle every day and I move to Austin, I'm going to demand there be a commuter shuttle for me where I now live, especially in offices where it's pretty normal to be driving to work every day. I didn't mention like New York, for example. We don't offer a shuttle program there because there's a subway in New York that we can take. We don't offer parking in New York either for a very good reason that it's quite expensive, and it's quite expensive here in downtown Austin as well, though we do offer parking in our office. We don't heavily incentivize it, or we try not to. But we do have a lot of different programs. I'll talk about some of those in depth now. So we've got our commuter shuttles. We've got 4 routes, one to northeast Austin in the Lakeline area, northwest, we go up to Round Rock. We have a shuttle that goes to actually where our office used to be up until when we moved downtown in 2017, off of Mopac, 183. And then we've got a shuttle that goes down south all the way down to Slaughter and Minchak. We're constantly we work with We Drive You, and I saw I think Cliff was on the call. We work with We Drive You. They provide our shuttles, and we're constantly looking at the routes, making changes to our existing routes. We're looking at adding new routes to cover more as we grow the office. We also have van pools. Van pools are special to us. I think that was one of our first programs that we started here, even before shuttles. And van pools are fun to talk about because that was how our shuttle program at Google started many years ago, as a group of Google employees getting together and saying we need to get to work and we don't want to drive anymore, or we want to drive with other people. And so we offer that fully subsidized to employees here in Austin. We have, I think we're up to 6 or 7 now that cover everywhere. And all it takes really is for an employee to say, hey, I want to do this. We say, great, help us find 5 or 6 other people who will do this with you. Ideally, people who live in your neighborhood. And I've taken, I'm part of our van pool in South Austin where I live. We meet in a parking lot, we hop in the van, and we get to commute together every day. It's pretty great. You know, stuff like gas is paid for, and maintenance and all that you don't have to worry about either. We also offer Cat Metro monthly passes to our employees that we distribute ad hoc when people ask for them. But now we have a great tool that I'm going to get to at the end here. Loom helps us distribute those and track them, which we weren't really doing up until about a month ago when we launched it. We also try really hard to incentivize our EV drivers and by providing free charging in our garage. And when I moved to Austin, I bought an e-Golf. I bought it online because they don't sell them in Texas, and I found that out later yet. And so it's actually really hard to get my car serviced here. So I'm constantly bugging Onion Creek Volkswagen to get a proper EV technician so I can service my car. That's a whole other story. But you know, when I moved here, our EV charging was pretty empty. Not a lot of drivers had EVs, but not a lot of employees had EVs. But now it's full, and it's really hard to get EV parking in our garages. So I think that's really great. I think a lot of that has to do with more affordable Tesla Model 3 coming out, but also, you know, it's a sign of the times that people are really getting on board with you know, non-gas consuming vehicles. We also incentivize those who are within a reasonable distance to be able to bike to work by providing tons of bike storage and showers through our office. Although we do have a good friend of mine, Kyle, he commutes once a week from Round Rock by bike, which is insane to me, but he does it, and I think he was recently featured.
He was a commute hero,
He was a commute hero. So we do have people who come from pretty far distances as well, apparently. We also, so Waze is a Google company, and Waze Carpool, who is, I don't want to speak on behalf of them because I'm not a Waze Carpool employee, but they're trying to really beef up their presence in Austin as a market for them, a really strong market. Last year, they started to provide us with quite a few free ride subsidies for Waze Carpoolers. I've used Waze Carpool myself. It's pretty great. There was somebody who was my neighbor. They didn't actually work at Google, but they worked in downtown, and so we've done that a couple times, and I got paid for it. It's quite nice. We recently also are providing employees with Lime scooter subsidies. That's new. That just started right before I went on leave, and I've heard it's really been successful. We've got our office downtown on 2nd Street in San Antonio, and we've got a smaller office on 2nd Street in Congress. And it's been really great for people who, especially I think as the weather heats up and people who don't want to walk, the 10-minute walk, can hop on a Lime scooter and ride back and forth between offices if that's what they need to do. Also, I've heard a lot of great feedback so far from people who live, within a couple miles. Getting to work has been much better for them now that they can get a free scooter ride. And then finally, we just launched this year, within the last month, the Loom commute management platform. And what Loom does is it provides employees a place, you can see this screenshot here, to really see all their transportation options, gain access to things such as parking, the Cat Metro passes as an example, find carpool and vanpool partners. So rather than by word of mouth, they can see it all here on a hub, people who are looking for similar options for their commute. And then also lets people compete against one another, and that's what I'm showing here. I tried really hard to censor some names to see how many trips people are taking that aren't single occupancy driving, because that's really what this is trying to do, is incentivize alternative modes that aren't I'm driving myself to work. And then once you've taken enough trips that aren't single occupancy, you can also win prizes, so or be entered in contests to win prizes. So that's that wasn't really possible before, and so we're trying to do a lot of things to really take the burden off of single occupancy driving. And so really what we're trying to do is with our programs is to provide as many options in a reasonable way for commuting to the office, because we know that people need flexibility and incentives to change their behavior. And if we want more people to take the shuttles, we have to make sure we're covering the right neighborhoods, leaving at the right times when people need them. And this is something that we're constantly looking at and iterating on as we collect data on how people get to work. So, just to conclude, like Google as a neighbor in downtown, we need to do everything that we can to contribute to solutions around population growth and do it as responsibly as we can. We think it's only the beginning right now as we start to rethink the ways we look at community. The biggest area of opportunity for us is to convert more people, more employees living near where they work from driving to biking and ride sharing. And we certainly have a long way to go with that, but these are just a couple things that I want to talk about today. And I'm really happy to be presenting on this. So thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. And this will be announced in our e-newsletter. Let's Go News later this week. But just as a sneak preview for those of you on our webinar, Chris Iverson, who recently accepted a position on the Movability Board of Directors. So he's been such a wonderful partner on behalf of Google for the last several months. We're excited to work more with them. So thank you, Chris, for being here. Yeah, that's going to be fun. So now we have some time for Q&A. It looks like we have about 5 minutes. So please, any questions for any of our 3 presenters or for me about transportation or what you heard today, please type into the chat box. And Anika, can you let us know if we have any questions coming up yet? Okay, one of the questions that I had when I was on the Zipcar website this morning, as I mentioned, making my reservation, I saw that Zipcar is doing a free sign-up promotion in April for Earth Month. Hopefully it's okay for me to say that. Brian, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, it's perfectly fine to say. It's on the website. It is public information. Yes, so but in honor of Earth Month, which is one of our nationally scaled initiatives this year, we are offering a free trial. So for that first month of your membership fees are waived. All new members.
Awesome, very cool. Well, so I would encourage anyone who's curious about Zipcar, go to the Zipcar website and check that out, because I can attest, I think it's really helpful. I use Car2Go and Zipcar and pretty much every other option in Austin, and it's definitely an important piece of the toolkit, at least from what I've found. Great. One of the other questions that we've gotten is for Chris at Google. What have you found is some of the best ways you found to get employees engaged or paying any kind of attention to the commute program at Google?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I would start by saying it's one of the areas that we aren't doing a whole lot of yet, and I want to do more of this year. I think a lot of our engagement is really passive through the programs that we provide. And so, part of that, we do advertise, we have newsletters that go out within our office for employees to read. We also have digital signage throughout the office, and the majority of the things that we advertise on our digital signage are around our transportation programs. Because, what happens is people get hired or they transfer to an office like Austin. They want to know where to live. They want to know how to get to work. And those are the really important things for people to understand. So we need to make sure that we're uncovering that information. We hit people in orientation as well. But, I think some of the areas that we have opportunities in are through tabling activities. And I know that we drive you, I've been gone for the past month, but I think they were either going to or will start to bring some people tabling and explaining our shuttle program to people who have questions. So that's one area. It's a topic of constant conversation though with employees, so we're very engaged with folks.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question for Brian. What are some of the advantages for businesses and employers specifically to be part of Zipcar and to provide that for their employees?
Sure. There are several actually. As I mentioned earlier, there are great benefits when we partner with an organization. We offer discounts not only to the organization in general and driving credits sometimes, but also we offer great price breaks for their employees. What happens is you create a business account, employees are logged to that account, and then the business can keep track of who's driving when, where, and how. So it also cuts down business costs in general, but also because of the price break we give you because of our relationship. It also generates, it helps to not generate overhead or costs that you would incur with taxis, or parking fees, and so on. So it really is a benefit, not only for the employee as a mobility option, but say the employer.
Great, thank you. Looks like we have another couple of questions that have popped up. Anything you want to give us one of those?
Sure. So just the first one is just a comment for Ashley from Savannah, who is in Knoxville, Tennessee. Savannah is the program coordinator for a TDM program in Knoxville, Tennessee, and she would love to collaborate with you. She'll be sending you an email to talk about your similar goals, which is great. Thanks for joining us, Savannah. Elizabeth, a question for Chris and Elizabeth at Whole Foods in regards to your van pool administration program. Elizabeth wants to know if Google helps with the administration of the van pool in terms of the logs, maintenance among employees, or once the van pool is coordinated, is it really up to the employees to kind of do the administration coordination?
Great question. Yeah, so we really try to take as much burden off employees as we can. We don't, when someone signs up for a program like van pool, we don't want to make it their responsibility to manage, their van. Although, a lot of it, like I said, has to do with word of mouth. So finding people who live in your neighborhood to ride with you, that's pretty much one of the only things other than obviously driving the van pool that we leave it up to the employee to do. Really, we have a strong partnership with, so it's the van pools we have through Enterprise and Cap Metro, and we have a strong relationship with the account managers at Enterprise who help a lot with the administrative. Basically, we get billed for it and we pay the bill, and that's really, they do the rest. So I'm happy to make those introductions if anyone wants to reach out and get that all rolling.
Yeah, we can certainly send that out after Metro Rideshare through Capital Metro is a great program and resource we have in the community. So it is 1 o'clock. That's all the time we have today. If any other questions pop up or if you want to send them in, we can answer them via email. And again, if you have any other questions or would like an invite to our happy hour, my contact info is up there and I'm happy to chat with you about it. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.